Chapter 3. Sitting under a starry night, Winex turns an angry glare at Bardex. You went to the dry country without telling me? I'm sorry, honey. I didn't want to worry you. This is what I do. This is how I earn money to hopefully pay for the life you and I talk about. Winex's face softens with a look of love. I understand. I'm not happy about it, but I understand. Can you continue? With a half smile, Bardex continues. I'm truly sorry, Winex. After leaving the bar, I immediately headed home, grabbed my travel bag, and caught the train headed out to the dry lands. It had been a long trip by train to reach the entry point to the dry lands. Bardex is sitting watching the green countryside going by from the train to the dry lands. Bardex feels the train beginning to slow. Looking out the window, he sees a sign indicating entering Terrok. Bardex had already slept on the train and is anxious to get going. With the sun setting, hurries off the train and goes to get his supplies. With the sun now down, Bardex begins his trek. Bardex is walking with his backpack and water canteen. Over his shoulder are the town of Terrok and the train. Around him is the dry land. As the sky begins to lighten, Bardex is walking over a rise with his backpack and water canteen slung over his shoulder when a burst of sand erupts ahead of him and a giant worm rises out of the loose ground, blocking his path. The worm rises 12 feet above the ground with more underground. Bardex begins to move to the side to go around, but the worm appears to track Bardex with every step via vibration of his movements. With each step, the worm moves in the given direction. Pulling his weapon, Bardex fires, but the blast has only marginal effect on the worm. Backing up in an attempt to retreat, he observes a large desert spider, 6 foot high, approaching from the side of the worm. As the spider gets closer, the worm turns from Bardex and attacks the spider. The spider leaps, attacking the worm, and begins to sink its fangs into the giant worm. With the two giants fighting, Bardex takes his opportunity to move north and away from the giant, vicious encounter. Trudging along, he looks at his compass and realizes he is put slightly off course and needs to circle around to make sure he avoided the current fight. Climbing over a small group of rocks, a flash of light catches his eye. Bardex moves over to find a hole surrounded by rocks. Climbing into the rock formation, he sees a layer of crystalline formations in a variety of colors where the rays of the light struck the formation. Constantly looking around for danger, Bardex picks up a stone and breaks off a number of the crystals, carefully packing up bigger part of the broken crystals and placing them in his backpack. He continues to look at the remaining crystal formation. Winex, I wished I could show you this to you. You would love to see it, but I will bring some back for you. Climbing out of the hole, Bardex continues on his trek towards Terrok. As Bardex and Winex sit at the table outdoors, Winex looks with excitement towards Bardex. You brought back jewels for me? Of course. I don't have them with me, but they are just desert jewels. It's the sparkle and the beauty that reminded me of you when I look in your eyes. Now back to reason I was gone. After a while of walking late in the afternoon, I reached Terrok. It's a sleepy little town with just a handful of buildings. Bardex walks past buildings as he enters the one main road through the center of the small, dusty town. Heading to the bar, he observes a few people inside. Bardex sits down in a corner and puts money on the table. A bartender walks over to Bardex. Welcome. What can I get for you? Bardex smiled. Some food and drink, whatever this will cover. After a short while, the bartender returned back with food and drink. Bardex sat eating and watching the small bar slowly fill up with people. After finishing his meal, he headed outside to sit on a bench while finishing a drink. Sitting on the bench, the sun would soon disappear as Bardex noticed a small house 4 buildings down on the far right of the end of the town. 2 men emerged. One was an albino, and his partner was covered with tattoos. The men emerged into the afternoon sun and slowly walked towards the bar, laughing. Bardex kept his face down and covered by his hat as the albino and tattoo men entered the bar. Picking up his backpack and walking to the small house, Bardex circles around to the back and leaves his backpack under a bush behind a small tree. Going to the back of the house, Bardex leans on the door and quietly enters. Bardex begins searching for the jewels, not finding anything but a weapon in a drawer in the front room. He takes it, then settles into a comfortable chair to wait for the men to return. Bardex picks up from his light snooze upon hearing an albino and his partner, along with two women, approach the house. Peeking out the window, he could see them in a drunken stagger while he heard music from the local bar drifting in the background. Entering the small house, the lights suddenly come on, showing Bardex smiling. Bardex is sitting and waiting with his weapon drawn and a mask covering his face. Have a fun time? I think you know what I'm looking for. Who the frank are you? I'm just a guy here to take back the stones you stole. Nothing beyond that information matters. What makes you think I want to give them to you? Ladies, please move over to those chairs and sit down. And if you wouldn't mind, please strip so I can see you aren't armed. While Bardex waits, the albino tattoo man and the two women strip down to their underwear. When the women are done, Bardex motions them to the two chairs. Please tie up your lady friends. The two men proceed to tie up the two women. Now to business. Where are the jewels? Don't have any jewels, sneered the albino. Bardex fires a blast at the front of the albino's feet, causing the men to flinch and the women to scream. He then twists the power dial on the gun. Next time you won't be so interested in the ladies anymore. Okay, over in the desk drawer. Bardex motions to the albino to get the jewels. As the albino starts to look in the desk drawer, Bardex raises the weapon he took from the drawer. Do you think I'm stupid? Now get the jewels or lose yours. The albino pulls everything from the drawer, then removes a false bottom. Lifting the cloth bag, he turns to Bardex and tosses the jewels to him, who then opens the bag to verify the contents, keeping his focus on the two men. Thank you, gentlemen. You can now continue your evening's entertainment, but first I need you on the floor. The two men lay down on the floor, where Bardex proceeded to tie them up. Walking to the sitting women, Bardex leans over and gives them a kiss on the cheek and leaves the house through the back.
Well, folks, we've reached the end of the chapter. Click the link to continue listening to the story. Also, be sure to smash the like and subscribe buttons so you never miss another story on Watcher in the Fall.